The Nitecore EC22 is a single emitter, small diameter 18650 flashlight with a rotary switch here instead of a more traditional button. This allows Nitecore to make a light that instead of having preset modes, it makes it infinitely variable. And I'll just quickly demonstrate that. The more I turn it, the brighter it gets. This is done with a rotary switch here on the front of the light. Thanks to NitecoreStore.com for sending this light to me to take a further look at. Here is the packaging, and I'll insert some still photos here so you can see it better. It's pretty standard Nitecore's yellow and black box, except you don't get a runtime chart on here because of this light's variable nature. Instead, you get these facts about it. It is impact resistant to 1 meter, waterproof to 2 meters, IPX8 water resistant, and good for 1,000 meters with a max distance of 185 meters. Accessories with the light include the extra O-rings, a nice here premium lanyard with a smaller loop here. The lanyard loops on this light are pretty generous and pretty large, so you can probably fit paracord through there, thin paracord. You get the pocket clip, which is included by default but isn't installed. It can go on the back of the light here or the front of the light if you want to put it on a ball cap. And then you get the holster here. And let me show you a little more of it. It's got Velcro here in the back and a D-ring. And here is the light in the holster. And I think this is more of a generic holster that Nitecore has for other products maybe, because while this light isn't particularly long, it just barely fits. You can see here, it just barely has enough Velcro to make it on and attach. That's something I kind of wish they'd either make this a little bit longer so it attaches better. This makes it easy to get out though and use. So this light is made from nicely milled aluminum and hard anodized black. It's pretty narrow for an 18650 light. It's very similar here to my AceBeam EC35. It is longer, as I will demonstrate here, but diameter-wise, very similar. There's some knurling here on the tail tube and the body tube. It's less aggressive, it's pretty smooth, but it does give the necessary grip to take the battery cap on and off. The tail here is blank, it's just depressed. This allows it to stand up nicely, and it is got an indent here for a lanyard if you want to run one, which is nice. This is a missed opportunity though, because I think Nitecore could have stuck a magnet in there. The clip here is listed as titanium plated stainless steel. I believe this is most likely a titanium nitride based PVD coating used to increase its scratch resistance. The clip can attach, as I said, to the rear or to the middle here. And the only complaint I have about the clip is A, it's not deep carry enough. That's just me. I really like a really deep carry clip if I'm going to carry a light. And the second is the retention isn't super strong. It's just a little bit loose and doesn't quite fully attach to the body. As we move closer to the front here, there's a 6-sided hex ring that helps the light not roll around. I can position it wherever I want, which is nice. And then if we move it forward, we get here the rotary button, which really is the star of the show. This moves clockwise, and it is an aluminum button with, I think it's a plastic center, I'm not sure, it's a different finish. And I wish this rotary switch had a bit more grip on it because it is stiff. You've got to click and then detent to turn on here. It does make a little bit of noise. Other than being just a little bit stiff, and it has loosened up, so I expect it to get better as I use it, it's not bad. One-handed I can turn it, but it does take effort. If your hands were wet or something like that, I don't know that it'd work as well. You have some grooves cut here to improve cooling. Then at the front you have some crenulations in the bezel. The glass is anti-reflective coated. And there's the LED down at the bottom there. What's a little bit strange to me is the reflector there. It's not very close to the LED. My only real gripe with the EC22 is right here. So as you see here, the light works just fine. I can turn it on and off. In doing so though, I've got to have this body tube not line up with the tail cap. If I unscrew it just slightly so it lines up, the light no longer works. It doesn't make contact there. I don't know if this is just my example, and I figure it is because I've seen other video on this light and theirs lines up. I've taken it apart, tried to get it to line up, and mine just doesn't. It's not a deal killer though for this light, it just bugs my OCD. So the EC22 is thinnest here on the body tube and tail cap at 25.5 millimeters. It's thickest at this anti-roll ring at 26 millimeters. Overall length is 128.7 millimeters, which is pretty good. And the weight with a Nitecore IMR 3100 button top battery is 126.8 grams. The water rating is IPX8. So as I was explaining here, the UI of this light's really simple due to this linear rotating switch in the front. There's a strong detent when you turn it on and off, and it makes a click that you can hear and feel. And that rotary switch, when it turns clockwise, it turns on. And it's about 270 degrees to full on from off. Either way, this is pretty smooth, and it works with either hand. I like to use it with my right hand because I am right-handed, and it's a little bit stronger, more dominant. I don't see this light coming on accidentally in your pocket, and because of that, it has no lockout mode. There's also no other modes with this light. There's no strobe, no turbo. It's all just this rotary switch. I think this is good. It makes the light super easy to use. Once someone understands it's a rotary switch instead of a push button switch, they can use it and they can adjust it to whatever brightness they want. So this light uses a Cree XPL HD V6 LED in cool white. This is a pretty standard cool white, but not too cool and not too warm, somewhere in the middle there. I generally prefer a neutral white or a more warm white, but I really like this cool white. I have no complaints there. I didn't notice any significant Cree rainbow in this emitter. And the reflector, as I've mentioned before, is smooth, and the lens is anti-reflective coated. The LED is centered in the middle of that reflector, but because the reflector doesn't come in close, you get some artifacts kind of that I'll show in my beam shots here. So I've got the light on one of its lowest settings here, and it's hard to show. It's hard to see. If my still pictures show it better, I will show it there. But the hot center of this light has some distortion in it. It's almost square. And I think that's the emitter itself. It's not super distracting, but you can notice it at distance. It's more observant in close ranges. Again, if you're not a flashaholic, I don't think you're going to probably notice this. This is me being pretty critical. Here are my night shots for the Nitecore EC22. This is an infinitely variable light. Here's what it sounds like when it first comes on. It's got a nice little click there. So this is the lowest mode. They say this is half a lumen. And as we know, half a lumen doesn't show up on camera really well, but we'll pan down and try. I guess it shows up just a little bit. I'd say this is brighter than half a lumen based on my other lights. I'd say this is more like a lumen or two. And then I'm just going to ramp it up here, and we'll start to see what it looks like. It's a pretty smooth ramp. And you can see 1,000 lumens here really lights up nice. This is a fairly narrow reflector, so it throws decent. It's got a pretty decent hot spot at distance like this, but you can kind of start to see there on my fence that it's not a round beam profile, it's almost more square. That's kind of something that I wouldn't expect on a light like this. It's not super square at distance, it's just a little surprising. And this light doesn't have any special modes, it's just on and off with that ramp feature. So I'm going to ramp it down manually here. You can see I can stop at any point I want. That makes it perfect to get the brightness you want for whatever task you're doing. I measured the parasitic drain at 1.5 UA, which is microamps. I did my runtime testing with a Nitecore branded IMR 3100 button top cell that's protected. As you can see from my graph here, the light does have active thermal controls. You can see the lamp ramp down from its turbo setting of 1,000 lumens and then as it cools off, it will increase brightness for a short time before settling into about 55% of relative output for a solid 80 minutes. The next 25 minutes, the light decreases significantly in output lumens as the battery runs out of power. Total runtime of usable light at its maximum setting with this 3100 battery is 160 lumens, which is pretty good, I feel like, for a single 18650 battery light using a 3100 milliamp hour battery. As always, you can run that lower runtimes and expect longer outputs. And heat wasn't a significant issue with this light. It does have a hot warning here, but I'd just say it just got warm. For me, the pros and cons are I really liked the interface. Once you get to know which direction the rotary switch operates, it's super simple. And I like the large lanyard holes in the back in the tail standing design. What I don't like, in my example, the body tube flats don't line up with the button. That just bugs my OCD. And that pocket clip I think should have better retention, and I'd prefer it to be deeper carry. But again, that's subjective. My conclusion is that Nitecore isn't afraid to try new things with their flashlight designs. For me, a rotary switch like this is new, and I like it. It's a little stiffer than I expected, and I think it'll loosen up a little bit as I use it more. I really like the infinitely variable light output this has, and I think a rotary switch like this is a decent way to do it. It makes the operation very logical. I think if Nitecore wanted to make a tactical version of this light, they could add an electronic switch to the rear here and give it some shortcuts, maybe strobe, maybe shortcut to turbo, but this would make it more complicated. If you've not tried a light with ramping output, it's quickly becoming my favorite UI and one of my favorite features on lights when it's done right. The output beam isn't as smooth as I'd like to see it, but I don't think a non-flashaholic would notice this. For me, it's not a deal breaker for what is otherwise a nice flashlight. Thanks to the NitecoreStore.com for sending this one out to me to evaluate. I'll have a link in the description below, and in case you're interested in checking it out, please go look at it on NitecoreStore.com. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as it helps me to continue to bring videos like this to you. Thanks for helping me break 10,000 subscribers this past weekend.